The Alabama gang will live on in NASCAR history as one of the most influential group of drivers ever to grace the sport. From the Allison family to Neil Bonnet as well as Red Farmer, there was a ton of talent. What gets lost in history, however, is this group had a few unofficial members, one of those being Stanley Smith. Smith started his racing career like many other drivers on the short tracks of Alabama. Craving for more success, he convinced future Cup Series crew chief Felipe Lopez to drop out of Texas A&M and join his race team. Together they won the All-American Series championship in 1989, and by 1990 they were attempting Winston Cup races. He attempted to qualify for that season's Winston 500, but in his first Cup effort, Smith wrecked in qualifying and had to withdraw. However, when he returned to that same track in July, he qualified a shocking 12th. From 1990 to 1992, Stanley Smith made a total of 27 Cup Series starts. He never scored a top 10 in the Winston Cup Series, but at least he has one career ARCA win to his name at Michigan. While the team didn't find a whole lot of success on track, their impact in the sport was giving young crew guys a chance, one of those being arguably the greatest crew chief in NASCAR history. In 1993, Smith lost his sponsorship and Chad Canals left to join Hendrick Motorsports. He DNQ'd a total of 6 times before finally making his first start of the 93 season in the Die Hard 500, which, as you're about to see, would be a very emotional race.
The writer, the Southern writer, William Faulkner once put it, "Between grief and nothing, I will take grief." And it is that collective sense of mourning that unites the racing community here at Talladega Superspeedway. It was here that one of racing's best, Davey Allison, drove his first Winston Cup race. He won his first major race here. On July 12th, piloting his own helicopter, he crashed at this racetrack in the infield. Davey would die the next day. He was 32.
Entering this race, the Alabama gang went through a plethora of emotions. Not only did Davey Allison tragically pass away 2 weeks prior, but there was also the much anticipated return of Neil Bonnet. Smith qualified his car at nearly 188 miles per hour, good enough to start 35th. By lap 56, he was already 1 lap down, but there was also a caution involving the driver who would replace Davey Allison, Robbie Gordon. He brought out the first caution when he wrecked in the tri-oval after clipping the apron trying to squeeze under Smith and Sterling Marlin. Once the race was back under green, it was business as usual. You had the main pack of contenders, but in the back you also had another pack of midfielders and lap cars. Smith would be in the middle of the second one. You would think since the second pack was so far back, they were completely out of harm's way. But unfortunately, that wasn't the case, because on lap 71, there would be a big one involving Stanley Smith, who soon after would be fighting for his life.
Well, Robbie Gordon, they've just seen it all again. Maybe you could just talk us through your point of view.
Well, what I felt from inside the car, I felt I got out of the pits, I was running fourth, Jeff got by me, I lost the lead draft. Finally, I got hooked up with Mark, and I think we were catching Sterling. I don't know if he was on the lead lap. Hopefully it didn't wear out our welcome here, because we were having a great time in the Texaco car.
Hey, I've got to go, Robbie. There's been another accident on the track. Thank you.
All right.
Racing back to the line. Sterling Marlin trying to make up a lap. There's Stan Smith's car, demolished, and there's some flame coming out of the Alabama driver's car. Take a look at what happened here that's brought out the second caution of the day.
There's Stanley Smith in the middle in the black car. They were running 3 abreast going into that turn, Ken. There's the car number 1 of Rick Mast.
There is one car that has gone over the wall, as you see in that.
As the pack entered turn 1, Kenny Wallace squeezed up in front of Smith. Wallace hit the outside wall and spun backwards against it, and then all of a sudden Smith spun across the track down to the inside, striking Jim Horton and sending him tumbling. After hitting Horton, Smith spun back into the outside wall, hitting head-on and dragging Richie Petty and Rick Mast with him. As Horton flipped over the wall and landed on an access road, Smith's car had skidded all the way down to the apron. At first, many thought Jim Horton got the worst end of the deal since he flipped out of the track. But if you pay close attention to the track worker closer to Stanley Smith's car, he is absolutely petrified, because what he just witnessed was the aftermath of Stanley Smith suffering a Basiler skull fracture. Before we move on, I just want to give y'all a heads up that viewer discretion is advised for the following clips. If you don't want to see what the satellite feed picked up during commercial break, I would suggest moving the video up a few seconds. The satellite feed of the broadcast was even more frightening. While on commercial break, CBS cameras focus on the driver lying unconscious on the asphalt. His uniform, which was white when the race started, was now stained with blood all the way down to his knees. He was airlifted to the same hospital Davey Allison passed away at 12 days prior. He was diagnosed with a basilar skull fracture and a severed aorta in his neck. This situation is already hard enough for his family to have to deal with, but what makes this situation even more complicated was what his daughter was getting ready for prior to this race.
From the state of the 1992 football national champions from Chelsea, Alabama, I'm Autumn Smith.
That's right, his daughter Autumn was Miss Teen Alabama at the time, and the Miss Teen USA competition was supposed to be held on August 10th, which meant that she had to leave her father's hospital bed 2 days after the accident. Back in Alabama, her father surprisingly was making a tremendous recovery considering his injuries. Just 1 week after the accident, Smith was not only conscious, but also was upgraded from critical to a guarded condition with paralysis. During his recovery, he was visited by Bobby Allison 5 times. Twice while he was in a coma. By the time the first week of September rolled around, Stanley was discharged from the hospital. He didn't come out of the accident entirely unscathed, as he still had slight paralysis on his right side, as well as more surgery to correct the nerve damage he had suffered in the accident, and let's not forget, he never fully recovered full vision in his left eye. In the end, all that didn't matter, because Stanley Smith was one of the few drivers to say he survived a basilar skull fracture.
Wow, his car goes upside down.
Hit the catch fence. You're in Neil Bonnet's car.
Look at him, he's crawling out of it. That's good news. All right.
Neil Bonnet, okay.
In the same race that nearly took Stanley Smith's life, Neil Bonnet had survived a miraculous wreck of his own on the tri-oval. Just 5 months after the race, Stanley Smith was considering making a comeback. He was in Daytona for Speed Weeks 1994, not to race, but just to watch. On the morning of February 11th, 1994, Smith bumped into Neil Bonnet at a Daytona Beach Krispy Kreme and had breakfast together. Smith was talking to his good buddy about potentially making a comeback. Unfortunately, this would be the last time he would see him. After Neil Bonnet's fatal practice crash during Speed Weeks, Stanley Smith decided he would never race in the Winston Cup Series again. He eventually returned to racing in 2001, making some starts in the All-Pro Series, and finally in 2004, at the age of 54, Smith won at Kentucky, returning to victory lane and officially completing his comeback. After running the 2008 Snowball Derby, Stanley Smith decided it was time to officially retire. On December 9th, 2020, Stanley Smith would pass away from pneumonia. He was just 71 years old. To younger NASCAR fans, Smith's story gets lost in history, but it's important to remember. Beyond his accident, his influence still remains today. Chad Knaus won 7 Cup Series championships as a crew chief after starting out with Stanley and is currently helping run Hendrick Motorsports. But most importantly, let's never forget Stanley Smith's determination to fight through a very serious injury and still return to what he loved doing the most. For a very long time, Stanley Smith has been NASCAR's most forgotten survivor. And once again, that'll do it for another video. Thank you guys so much for watching. This is Black Flags Matter. Catch you next time.